piece of me?
Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Good morning, Vietnam! I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
I feel the need for speed.
I wish I knew how to quit you.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
You do. You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Happy Monday, moviegoers. Welcome to a new episode. Welcome to episode 246, and welcome to the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Juan, and I'm joined by the cast, the crew, the hitmen, Zach.
Family. Oh, sorry, wrong movie. Sorry. Go ahead.
Ed.
Man, how's it going?
It's going. You're a little sketchy right now, but we're doing pretty good, guys. Everybody have a good weekend. Zach, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good. Tiresome. I had to go into work for a little bit, but other than that, doing pretty good.
When, like on Saturday?
Yeah, we had to. We're long story short, we're getting like a new system in our building, so we had to come in and like convert patients over. So from like 7 to 1, so not too bad.
Sounds like somebody else's problem.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
Man.
Ed, what about you? Did you have a good weekend?
Had a great weekend.
Still breaking up there a little bit, buddy. The weekend was pretty good. I think, the sad thing is about the weekends is that it always goes by too fast.
Yeah. Totally agree with you, man.
But yeah, today, guys, we're talking Sicario. We also have a brand new top 5 that we're going to be talking about. But if you guys did not look back or check us out last week we were able to talk about Passion of the Christ, 2004 Mel Gibson movie. I was thinking about this. I got a few emails about last week's episode. I'll read one off. One of them was, hey, I've been listening to you guys for years, and I enjoy the reviews and the different movies that you guys review every week. But for some particular reason, there was no star rating given last week, and I enjoy every aspect of your show, especially the star rating. Was wondering how come there was no star rating for the Passion of the Christ. And then I also got some other Instagram messages and some Facebook messages too. I look at it this way, like it's just, I'm not comparing the two, so don't make fun of me, don't laugh at me. It's almost like the Exorcist. It's two different people's reasoning and virtue of not wanting to give a star rating. But since we talk movies, we give star ratings. If it'll please some of the listeners, my star rating for the Passion of the Christ, I'm going to give it a 6. At the end of the day, we review films, we give star ratings to films, and this is complete non-biased when it comes to movies. We always throw politics and religion out the door, so in this case, I feel like we're going to do the same. It's a Mel Gibson directed movie, for goodness sake, so I'm giving Passion of the Christ a 6.
I guess if I can throw my hat in that same thing, I'm going to go ahead and say a 9. A little bit gory. Just a bit gory. Other than that, I thought it was great, man.
Ed, you're still breaking up. You're still sketchy, a little scratchy. But a look back last week, you guys can listen to the Passion of the Christ episode however you listen to podcast. It's all on the social media. Facebook.com/the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Instagram is all one word, the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. You can catch us at the Twitter at Cinnamon405, or you can email us. It's the easiest and fastest way to get a hold of us, cinemen921@gmail.com. There you can get a hold of us and send us your star rating, send us your reviews, send us what you've recently watched. We'll get back into some recent watches next week. But this week, guys, I was in the thinker for a long time about a new top 5, something fresh that we haven't talked about. So today we are talking about our top 5 movies that we're surprised we haven't done yet. right, guys. Brand new top 5. Zach, was there a movie that hit your mind the moment I sent out this top 5 list?
Yes, and we're going to talk about it. It's my number 1, so we're going to talk about it here in a little bit.
Good. I'm surprised. I'm good. This just came to me, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of movies we haven't talked about, and I wonder why. So I thought it'd make a fun top 5 list, and so I think that's going to be a fun list. Edward is having some technical difficulties, so he may skip out on top 5, but he will join us for the review for sure. Craig did send in his list though. His list is Tropic Thunder, A Walk to Remember, National Treasure, Four Brothers, and Battle Royale.
It's a good list. Really good list.
Zach,
what's so funny is it's like we have 1, 2, 3, 4 lists. So this is going to be like the rest of the year, technically, if we start talking about some of these ideas.
You know, I'm okay with that because it helps me decide what can be an episode and what can't be. Do you have any honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions, I would just say, hold on 1 second. I would say probably The Mummy, the Brendan Fraser Mummy, and maybe Forrest Gump. I think those are 2 that would be excellent conversations.
I'm also and remember, guys, these are movies that we're surprised. Like, why haven't we talked about yet? So if anybody wants to give a explanation, we can, or we can just make it an episode one day. My honorable mentions are going to be Friday, the Ice Cube comedy classic, The Birds, which you're a huge Hitchcock fan, so I'm kind of like, why hasn't that been thrown out more? And then number 1 for me is like Civil War. We've talked about so many Marvel movies in the past. We even had The Road to Endgame, and Civil War was never one that got brought up. And I think that would be a fun topic one day. So those are my honorable mentions.
We also did a top 5 plus 5 MCU films.
Yep.
A while ago. And I mean, we have done Hitchcock. I'm glad you brought up The Birds. We've done Psycho, Rear Window, North by Northwest, but The Birds would be, I think it's celebrating 65 years this year, I think. I'm almost certain. So there you go.
I'll kick us off. Number 5 for me, I'm such a sucker for this song for emotional reasons, but the soundtrack was good. But also, it's just a fun movie to sit and watch things get blown up by. And I love disaster movies. Number 5 for me is like, why have we not talked about Armageddon?
Oh, yeah.
It's on Criterion.
Oh, my God.
It's a Criterion film. It's a fun movie. The soundtrack is fun, and I'm like, why not?
But that it wasn't.
And the reason
were we going to talk about that at one time? Like it was on the list, but we pushed it or something.
We were. I also got an email a few months ago, I think January, and they were comparing like the 2, Deep Impact and Armageddon, how they both came out that year, and they were like, it would be a fun conversation for you guys to do those movies back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So number 5 for me is Armageddon. What's number 5 for you?
Number 5 is one that we did have on the list. I think it was going to be a November movie. I think it was. Part of me thinks it wasn't last year. Maybe it would have been 2021 or something like that. Number 5 is The Wizard of Oz. I think that'd be a fun conversation. It's, close to celebrating 100 years. I think it's maybe 89, 90 years old this year. Not for certain. But that'd be a really fun conversation because I know primarily our audience is not much of a old, like, golden age of Hollywood fans. But The Wizard of Oz is just one that, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what are the movies you've seen. I think that's just one that's just like stapled in everybody's mind. So I think that'd be a fun conversation to have one day.
Number 4 for me is going to be a Steven Spielberg classic, and I almost wanted to put on here why not more Steven Spielberg movies, but E.T.
I almost put E.T. and there was a part of me that's like, haven't we done E.T.? But no.
Like, why?
I don't think we have.
I'm always like, how come these movies haven't been pushed more? But yeah, E.T. is another one of those movies that I'm surprised we just haven't talked about.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a very good one.
Number 4 for you, Zach.
Number 4, Craig had one of the authors or that type of film in his top 5. I'm going to go on the opposite coin. I'm going to say The Notebook. I
No,
think we've talked about doing that for Valentine's Day the last, what do
two or
you say,
three
maybe
years.
2 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, definitely classic Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. One that, you make a list of like the top 5 tear jerkers, top 5 girl picks. I'm sure it would somehow end up on both of those lists. Great movie, like I said. Would be a fun conversation just to see, not so much to pick it apart, but to see like what was the lasting effect of that movie, because that actually turns 20 years old next year. So
Um, number 3 for me is, and I still don't know like how this has skipped any of our plates is phenomenal to me, but we have never ever talked about a Star Trek movie.
yeah,
Never.
you had the idea of doing the Chris Pine ones not too
Yeah.
long ago,
Yeah, I still want
but
to.
I think we were going to do it because they were going to do the 4th one, but the 4th one got scrapped. So I think your idea was like, that can wait.
Yeah, but even looking back at the celebration of the legacy of the original ones, or just we have never talked a Star Trek movie, and it just kind of it's a little baffling because we've talked almost every Star Wars movie. We're going on with some of the Lord of the Rings movies. We're hitting these big sci-fi franchises, but have never knocked on the door of the Enterprise.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I would definitely be down to doing the Chris Pine ones, because those are really good movies.
yeah, those are pretty good. What's number 3 for you?
My number 3 is, I had brought this up a long time ago because I think we got an email saying, what would you want to do that's something different that we hadn't done before? And I said, and I don't even know how this would work because all of us would be laughing our asses off. I thought we should do a commentary, like an episode commentary where you could play with the movie. We should do a commentary of Superbad. I think that'd be so much fun, so hysterical. It'd probably be laughter for like 90% of this.
Or even like a super bad episode in general.
Yeah. I think that'd be an excellent idea for an episode. That was definitely a movie that hit all in our teens, and it definitely, I don't know if I would say it was prevalent, but it definitely made an impact. And like, that was one of those movies that like, anytime when it came out, everyone was like, hey, have you seen this yet? It was just like one of those, like, it came out and everyone wanted to see it. So number 3, yeah, that'd be Superbad.
Number 2 for me is, and this is again right down your neck of the woods. Like, we've done a lot of this director's movies too, and I'm like, how we have not done Interstellar yet. Interstellar is number 2 for me, just because we've done the Dark Knight movies. We've done, I'm sure we're going to be doing Oppenheimer. We've done the Tenet. We've done a lot of Christopher Nolan flicks. But how Interstellar, and the reason I say Interstellar in general is just because of the conversation of time and the way he did that movie, the score, and that's another movie that could be almost like Shutter Island, or something along that lines of, even we've done Inception.
Yeah.
There's so many what ifs in that conversation. I think Interstellar would be phenomenal to talk about.
Yeah, Interstellar. I was about to say, yeah, Oppenheimer's coming out this summer, man. It gives us a chance to do it more Christopher Nolan. I think Dunkirk would be a fun episode. It's not so much talking about like his fascination with time, but it'd be like talking about the different aspects of the movie, like the land, air, and sea.
Yep.
That'd be a fun conversation as well. So yeah, Interstellar would be a good one.
Number 2 for you.
Number 2. I'm just shockingly surprised, especially with what came out last year. We've never talked about him. We all grew up with him. It's a film that essentially created a whole movie studio. Number 2 is Toy Story, at least the first Toy Story. I think that, I really thought when Lightyear came out last year, we were going to do the Toy Stories, at least maybe not all of them, but at least the first one. But yeah, like I said, we all grew up with them. It created Pixar, a phenomenal franchise. I mean, we could really just do the first one and talk about all 4 films if we wanted to. Yeah.
Almost like a Toy Story legacy conversation.
Yeah. There you go.
And I think, honestly, I think that's something we're going to dive into in the future. Instead of, you know, instead of developing week after week and dedicating a whole year or month to a franchise, especially if it's got 3 or 4 movies, like why not talk about the entire legacy of the franchise in one episode?
We might do that. We might test that out with Indiana Jones this
Yeah.
summer. So,
Number one for me, we've had two monologue openings throughout this entire podcast, almost 5 years of doing this podcast, and these 2 movies have they have the line, the line in the opening and the tagline. I'm like, how have we not talked about Happy Gilmore and Dirty Dancing?
yeah.
One, just because I'm a huge Adam Sandler fan and I love Adam Sandler, I could talk about him all day long. So, like, why has Happy Gilmore never been talked about? And then Dirty Dancing is just Patrick Swayze. It's this music. It's just a fun movie. So, I got a tie for number one, but it'd be those 2.
Yeah, we could have done a whole month of Patrick Swayze because we did Ghosts, we did Donnie Darko, and we could have done Dirty Dancing. Just made it a whole Patrick Swayze month. That'd been funny.
You might have given birth to something there.
No, we already done. We could do
Roadhouse.
Dirty Dancing. We could do Roadhouse. We could do. I'm sure there's another one that I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, he's in a lot.
Yeah. My number one is a film that has been pushed several different times, and it's pissing me off to the point where I hope we get to do it this year. Just because I know all of us like this movie, and when we have the idea of doing it, it just gets the unlucky, fortunate habit of being pushed for something else. Johnny, you son of a bitch. My number one is Public Enemies. I hope eventually we get to talk about that movie.
It has been pushed twice.
Ed, do you have any movies that you wish that you're surprised we hadn't done yet?
If you have 5 of them, just name them, or if you just have a few, you rapid fire through them.
So, basically, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, 4 Brothers, that one's a great one. Public Enemies is another one actually that I think is stupendous, but it is what it is. Pretty much after that, it kind of almost gets lost in the sauce on some of the movies that we haven't done. It's like I'm pretty sure we did Jaws.
We did Jaws.
Jaws. Yeah.
And that was one that I was just like, dude, I can't remember. And yeah, but there's kind of a lot of different ones. So yeah, something
I hope we talk about this year, just because it's celebrating 20 years, is the first Pirates of the Caribbean. I think that'd be a fun conversation.
I think that is going to be a July episode.
So
finally got to pay respects to the man that
he's having a comeback, man. He just went to Kansas this weekend and had a 7-minute standing ovation. So
what was he in the movie that got a standing ovation?
He's playing like
the whale.
King Louis the Fifth or something like that. It's like a French movie, but they say he's very, very good in it. So we'll see.
Interesting.
Killers of the Flower Moon also premiered at Cannes and got like a 7-minute standing ovation as well. So 3.5 girthy hours. So get ready.
So 7 minutes good, but like 20 minutes where it's at.
Yeah, essentially.
Wow. Well, guys, it is time. Let's move on. We are here to talk about Sicario. Way back when this podcast first started, Sicario 2, Day of the Soldano was out, and it hit Blu-ray, and me and Edward had a conversation about that movie in 2018. So why not revisit the original and have a fun conversation about how great this movie is? Sicario debuted October 2nd, 2015. IMDb has a rating of 7.6, Rotten Tomatoes at 92%, the Metascore is at 82%, while the Google users like it at 86%.
Yes, we do.
The budget was about $30 million, and it grossed over $85 million at the box office. After an idealistic FBI agent is enlisted by a government task force to aid in the escalating war against drugs at the border area between U.S. and Mexico. Starring Emily Blunt, Josh Brolin, Benicio del Toro, John Bernthal, Victor Garber, Daniel Kaluuya, written by Taylor Sheridan, and directed by Dennis Villanueva. Zach, we will start with you. Did you get to see this movie in the theater? And if so, what was it like when it was over? And then what was it like revisiting it for this podcast?
Yeah, saw this in the theater. I actually remember the theater when I saw it at Penn Square Mall, AMC. Walking out of it, I was just blown away by it. I thought it was just an incredibly well done movie. We'll get into the specifics here in a little bit, but it's just a phenomenal film. And then on this rewatch, I hadn't seen it maybe before seeing the second one, whenever the second one came out, 2018, I think. And I just had the same feelings all over again. It was just brutal, terrifying, tense. All the words that you want in a movie that is just like, yeah, I know this is real, but damn, they really put you in it, and it just goes full throttle.
I didn't see this movie in theaters, unfortunately, but I did I bought it brand new on Blu-ray after hearing the buzz, watched it. If I had to describe it after seeing it for the first time, it'd be phenomenal. And after rewatching it yesterday, I've only seen this movie 3 times. When it first came out, 2018 before the second one, and then just now. And if I had to, I would say I'd just use the same word, phenomenal. Ed, what about you? Is this a first-time watch?
It is, man. I did not actually view it when we did Day of the Soldado.
So you saw Day of Soldado before Sicario?
Correct. Yeah, did it for the episode. Hadn't heard of either one of them before then, and yeah, so this is the first time I've seen it this week.
Awesome.
Zach, what did you think going into the movie? You know, you have the raid scene where they discover the bodies, and Emily Blunt is not so blunt.
Blown away.
Yeah. Before going into it, I distinctly remember, and this is like old guy talk for a second. Back in the day, when papers actually had like the movie reviews in them, and they talked about it and everything, they had one for Sicario, and the tagline for it was, Sicario does for drug cartels what Jaws did for sharks. I was like, damn, all right, that's a pretty good, pretty powerful comparison. And yeah, that opening sequence of the raid and Emily Blunt almost getting blown through the wall, and it's almost like when Daniel Kaluuya kind of like sees the whole, like notices something in the wall, and it just kind of zooms in close and close and close by the time that they start ripping up the walls, and there's like 50 dead corpses lining up against the whole house of the wall. It's just that sets the tone for the rest of the movie, and it's really well done. The cinematography is outstanding. We'll talk about that as we go. And there's just a real this is more of like an action thriller, but that scene is almost like horrific. It's almost like a horror movie almost.
You know, I almost put this on a near perfect movie. Almost. But the one thing I had trouble with the second time around was Emily Blunt's character really annoyed me. And especially once she found out what Josh Brolin and Del Toro wanted to do. Like I felt like she was a liability from the moment they brought her in.
I'm like half and half agree with you, because it's like, obviously she's our character, our eyes through this entire situation, this world, the drug war that has been going on for years and years and years. I like how she's very much, she's the good cop that wants to go by the rules. There's regulations, there's all this and that. But on the other side of the coin, Josh Brolin's character and Benicio del Toro, they have to fight fire with fire,
exactly,
essentially. And she can't she can't get on board because they're breaking the regulations, they're breaking the rules. But it's just like,
But it's like
you know,
it annoys you so much though because you're like
but yeah, but but Benicio del Toro had an incredible line of, nothing will make sense to your American ears, and you're going to doubt everything that we do, but it's going to make sense to you once it gets going.
I don't even think it's a necessarily like a an American thing or anything like that. I think it's more of an emotional thing because a lot of people think that, oh man, I can hand. There's a difference when you're made to kill somebody.
I almost thought you were gonna say it's a female thing.
No, not at all. This is just a human thing. Male, female, I don't care. Older, younger, it doesn't matter. And this is what like the Call of Duty. And sorry, I'm not trying to offend nobody out there who plays COD, but there's a difference between doing it on a video game and in real life. Personally, never have had to take a life. I don't want to. I'm good with that. But you got to think, within the first day, she had to take a life. She got shot, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, the first day, she got turned on.
I almost wish I almost felt like her character should have. I know it seems like she went through a lot in this movie. John Berthenthal's character almost got her, but I feel like she should have went through a little bit more shit before she just started pointing fingers and proclaiming. Let me get their character's name right, but before just proclaiming that Matt and Toro were just doing dirty work, like
Alejandro, yeah,
Alejandro, like you should have been.
Well, I think if you have that experience, the sequence on the border crossing where they take the guy from point A to point B, and then they get stuck in traffic and all hell literally breaks loose. I think, Alejandro gave her one simple rule: stay in the car. Just watch your back, but stay in the car. And she couldn't even do that. But like, I get, even Alejandro says, don't trust the state police because you don't know if they're corrupt or not. So it's kind of a damn if you do, damn if you don't.
It's a catch-22 in all facets, for that matter. Just because you could die sitting there, you could die not sitting there. So it's exactly, man.
And I wanted to sit, and usually for all the movies I do, I'll write notes and I'll pay attention. But this time, watching this movie, I was fascinated both times I watched it. I watched it last night, and I watched it like a few hours ago. I was so fascinated. I didn't take a single note because even though I've seen this movie before, I was like, man, I don't want to miss anything. I'm at the edge of my seat. The score of this movie almost felt like I was watching a horror movie.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And then the cinematography felt like I was watching Yellowstone. Like I was watching Yellowstone and Hell or High Water in the same kind of distance. And I just was like, that is like cinematography at its best.
And I mean the cinematography, Roger Deakins, man, 1917, Skyfall, Blade Runner, Dune looks beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that the three aspects of this movie, the performances are great. We'll talk about them here. I know we had trouble with Emily Blunt's character, but her performance is really good in this.
Oh yeah, great performance.
Benicio del Toro is phenomenal. They do a really good job of like hiding the character behind a drape, and you really don't know if he's good, bad, what's he doing.
He's almost like a bounty hunter.
Yeah, and I like how Josh Brolin's Matt is kind of like the America, the guy that is just like what he wants, he's going to go after it. But I think the three things in this movie that just make this film, like what you said, Johnny, a masterpiece is cinematography, the writing, Taylor Sheridan, beautiful, and the score. Those three things just really the three aspects of this what makes this movie so strong.
And what's funny is it was nominated for Best Achievement in Sound, Best Achievement in Music, Motion Picture Score, and then Best Cinematography.
Yep.
But you know what? I want to talk about how cool, calm, and collected both Matt was and um. Damn it, I keep forgetting his name. Both
Alejandro.
both Matt and Alejandro, because they've been in the game for a while. They know who and what they're after. Alejandro has lost so much, but yet they're both just so cool. To where I love how when they bring in Kate, Emily Blunt, she's just so on edge, so by the book. But it's just, I
Hmm.
love how it just plays back between the three the entire movie. And the scene that sticks out with me is when she points the gun at Alejandro, and he's like, "Yeah." He
Yeah.
puts her into place.
Yeah.
Ed, what about you? Me and you talked about the second one a few years ago. What was it like with this one? Did you enjoy the three characters in this one? Matt and Alejandro's in the second one, but not Kate.
Um, Benicio del Toro, I liked a little bit more. Kate, I think, was a good addition. Well, maybe not addition, but a good part in this. And the reason I'm saying that is just because she embodies kind of a humane side to the movie. It's more of
Yeah.
a realistic, possible real person to this. It's more of a just a humane side, man. I mean, honestly. So Kate, I mean, I know we
She's
don't do this, but if I had to pick a favorite character, I'd probably go with Kate in this one. Just
she's the light in all the darkness, because it's just by the time you get to the point, by the time you get to the night vision scene where they're going through the tunnels underground,
Mm.
at that point, all hell could break loose. You don't know who's going to die. The intensity is so you could cut it with a knife. It's just you don't know what's going to happen.
and you kind of just see her break throughout the entire film,
Yeah,
slowly but surely. I mean,
Would you?
it's
I
kind
mean,
of crazy.
when we get to the John Bernthal scene, and you think he's just a nice guy that she meets in a bar, and it turns out he has one of the little wristbands that carry like the money. He's basically a money pusher or a drug pusher, whatever you want to say. It basically tries to kill him, and she has, like, after the situation ends, she kind of has like the dark joke of like, I almost had sex with my assassin, and Benicio del Toro's like, no, he wouldn't have killed you. He just wanted to know. He would want to know what you were doing with us. So
What do you guys think of the Silvio story going back and forth? His son always trying to wake him up to go play soccer. What do you guys think of that aspect of the film? Because it kind of ties into the ending of how real shit gets.
yeah, I remember initially saying like, what, like, I
What does this
remember
have to do
thinking to
with anything?
myself, exactly, and then like you said, Johnny, it ties into the actual climax of the movie. I like how it betrays Silvio. I guess that's his name. Betrays him as I think he is the living father. He's just trying to put food on the table, but unfortunately he got caught up in the whole mess of the situation, and he was a casualty at the end of the day because of his choices, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And I mean, it wasn't necessarily painting him as a bad person. It was painting what he did as a bad thing.
Yeah. It's almost like how, we don't have to go into the political nature of this, but like the essentially like the drug cartel is kind of like a tree, and how like all the roots and the vines and everything, they just spread out, and everything it touches, it just absorbs, and whatever it touches, you're now part of that, whether you
Yeah.
want to be or not.
That's a good way to put it. And when you put it like that, it's always it's the innocent who like always suffer. Yeah,
Yeah.
he ended up losing his life, but his wife, his kid, they're always gonna have to grow up without a husband, without a father. So,
Man, you want to talk about brutality in this? Whenever Alejandro gone ahead and came through the dinner scene,
the ending.
oh my god! Well, yeah, but oh my god, that was
What is? Because I know it's been a minute since we've seen the second one, and I
yeah.
can't remember if Alejandro is this quiet and sadistic in the second one. I can't really remember.
And that's the way. That's what I was wanting to. That's I didn't know either because I was just like, I don't remember him being this brutal.
It really made me want to revisit the second one, so I think I'm going to do that this week.
It did me as well. But I mean, you know, you don't even see him shoot the sons and the wife.
But
Until it's already too late, then they're already down.
When he gets them, though, it's kind of like, then, whoa, did he really just kill those kids? Did he really just do an Edward? No.
Because literally, you know, you've got them all just eating dinner, and the father goes to him and is like, eat. You know, like, don't worry about this. He's after me, not y'all. And in his head, he's like, I'm after everybody. I don't care. You are part of what took everything from me. So yeah, I'm gonna take everything from you, leave you alive for a minute, and then take you, because that's my final revenge. Basically, it was crazy.
Oh, are you talking about the dinner scene?
Because I mean, yeah,
guys, why do you think successful movies like this don't happen more often? I mean, it's almost kind of like how we talked about last week with Christian movies and Passion of the Christ. But like, you know, Zach, they've put out drug cartel movies before in the past. Like, you know, something that comes to mind is like Savages with John Travolta, I think.
Or Traffic.
You know, there's other movies like that, but they're not successful. And honestly, looking at it, Sicario wasn't very successful either. I mean, it didn't even do $100 million. But looking back at it, excuse my language, but damn, this is a good movie.
Yeah, I think
it's almost a touchy subject.
It is. I mean, I'm looking at like drug cartel movies. Like Sicario is the number one that comes up. So Savages is number 2. Scarface, The Last Stand, Miami Vice, Peppermint, Snitch, The Mule with Clint Eastwood. Yeah.
The Mule's not that bad.
No, the Mule's actually pretty good. I think because of the intensity of the subject matter and just like the actual tone and the thematic material, it's so hard to create a realistic version of this story, of the situation, without it being like stereotypical, if that makes sense. I know there's a lot of, you know, Mexico they didn't ban this movie, but they got pissed off that, you know, the excessive violence of what, like when they go to Juarez and you see the bodies hanging from the bridges. But it's like, no, I mean, that we've seen pictures of that. That is a real thing that can happen. So I mean, it's not out of the realm. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Right, but I think they just didn't want people to think of that Mexico. That's all Mexico's known for.
You know, that's what we know Mexico for, is death and violence.
I know it for beer, good food, and a good time. Heyo!
And excessive Blu-rays, yeah.
Another thing I wanted to touch on with Sicario was like Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
Now, here's somebody that we haven't really got to talk much about since Endgame, but what a span this guy had from 2015 to about 2019, 2020. You know, looking back at this movie, going all the way back to, you know, one of his first movies with the Goonies, what's the kind of legacy that you think Josh Brolin will have? You know, of course, his dad, you know, the famous James Brolin, late actor as well. Actually, I don't know if he's late. I think he's still alive. But man, has Josh Brolin not only surpassed his dad, but he has ran away with the flag. Like, and it's so amazing because Josh Brolin almost just did this almost like in the last 15 years.
Okay, so just starting from 2007, I mean, obviously Goonies was the main thing that got him recognized. He did just things here and there. Hollow Man, you remember that with Kevin Bacon, was in 2000, and he really didn't do anything well known until 2007. 2007, he had Grindhouse, In the Valley of Ella, which was Tommy Lee Jones and Charlize Theron, No Country for Old Men, American Gangster, and then from there it's W, Milk, Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps, True Grit, Men in Black 3, Gangster Squad. In 2014, he had Guardians of the Galaxy, Sin City 2, Inherent Vice. And then, okay, so you said 2015. Listen to this. Just 2015 alone, Avengers, Age of Ultron, he had like a little small cameo as Thanos, Sicario, and Everest. Then 2016, he had the Coen Brothers movie Hell Caesar, which I've actually never seen, but I've heard good things about it. 2017, he had Only the Brave. All right, so 2018, he had Infinity War, Deadpool 2, Sicario, Day of the Soldado. And then he kind of had a little break. In 2021, he had Dune, and then later this year, he'll be in Dune Part 2. So that's a damn impressive filmography. I mean, truth be known.
Yeah. And you know, like I said, going back at it, he is the movie may not be good, but his role that he's in most of those movies, he stands alone.
Yeah.
You know, Men in Black 3 wasn't the best of movie, but when he's in this, every scene he's in, he's phenomenal. You know,
Yeah, I agree.
Same thing with Everest. May not be the best of movie, but man, Josh Brolin can just act. And you know, after watching this movie and just how cool and calm and collected he is slowly, I think, becoming maybe one of the top 3 underrated actors of all time. Maybe.
Yeah,
Just because
he has a lot of Kurt Russell in him, where it's just like, yeah, he seems like a cool dude. I'd watch anything that he's in, almost.
He almost feels like he could be, and I know they're far different in age, but he feels like he could be like a Tommy Lee Jones-esque character.
Yeah.
Not just because haha, you know, not funny haha because he was in Men in Black 3, but just because, God damn, look at that body, Edward. But just, but just because.
Man, that just turned left and I didn't even expect that to happen at all.
What's that?
Great conversation about James Brolin. You missed it. Or Josh Brolin.
Let's say who?
But no, that was the fucking.
I can only imagine between you two.
That's another movie that I'm surprised we haven't talked about is The Goonies.
Yeah, that's true. That is another one.
But man,
This
movie is just so different back and forth on so many levels of how serious it is. It's not a fast-paced movie, but it's weird. This is a good thing. Let me put it this way. It's not a fast-paced movie, but it doesn't give you time to breathe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which
I kind of disagree. I think it is fast-paced because once you get into like, you know, the opening raid, the border crossing scene, the night vision, the time to meet God dinner scene, by the time you really realize that the movie is almost over, by the time you get to Alejandro and Kate's final conversation of him trying to get her to sign that piece of paper, and basically, which is a good summary. And I was thinking, Ed, you'll probably agree with what he was saying. It was just like, Kate, you won't survive. This is land of wolves. You'll die. So just leave now.
I think it's more just him saying, "Hey, look, I don't think you can handle this. You need to get out while you can, because once you get in too deep,
you will die."
Well, I don't think it's just you're just gonna die. I don't think it's like that. I think it's more him kind of looking out for her safety as well as her moral being, because I don't think he was meaning it as in you're fucking weak, so you need to go. It's more just like you aren't in this because you're just. You know, he's like, I'm a mercenary. I kill people.
Yeah.
You're trying to be a cop that helps people out. It's not going to go good for you. You're going to get stripped of almost any and everything that you are. Get out while you can. Kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I can only imagine going through something like that.
Something that I did notice, and I noticed this with Denis Villeneuve's all his different movies, is what I call the the wide shot storytelling, where like there's a scene where they get on the plane and like it's a wide shot of the mountains and the landscape, and you see a little tiny shadow just going. It's almost kind of like a metaphor for like we're alone going into this. He does it, the wide shot storytelling. He does it in this. He does it in Arrival. He does it in Blade Runner 2049. He does it in Dune. I think that's such a great. That's a great technique to have as a director, where you can say so much without saying anything, essentially, with those type of scenes. So,
Speaking of one of the final scenes of the movie, which is going to lead into my favorite scene, is going to be the scene where he sets her down and says, "I wouldn't stand on a balcony anytime soon, Kate." And he pretty much, has her sign what she needs to sign, and he goes away, but she draws the gun on him, and he turns back around, and it's almost like that's the last thing you want to do right now, lady. But that's my favorite scene, and I want to touch on it real quick. What do you guys think about that ending?
I don't even think it has anything to do with you're not gonna do it. I think it just proves Alejandro's point is that in this job you're gonna do anything to not only to survive but to take care of the job, and she couldn't even pull the trigger on him. And I think that was just his confirmation of like, yeah, you don't belong in this world, so just go home. I would say the scene after that, the actual final scene of the movie, is at the soccer game. The families are all standing around watching the kids, and you just hear gunshots in the background, and they just go back to what they're doing. I think that is like so powerful. Just like, yeah, another day in the life, essentially.
Yeah. Zach, what about you? What's your favorite scene?
There's a lot. I mean, there is a freaking a lot in this movie. The scene that really like put me on edge was, I don't know, Ed, if you said this was your favorite scene. I had to get up. I wasn't here on that part. But just the dinner scene when he says "Time to meet God" and he assassinates that cartel's leader's family, and he just leans back in his chair, exhales, and says, "Oh, go ahead. I'll let you finish your meal before I kill you." That is just, I think that is like not only powerful but just the most tense scene in the whole movie.
I'd agree. It is my favorite scene as well. Because it's a crazy scene. He gets revenge as well as just, I don't know. It's just got a lot of powerful meaning behind it.
And I like how they slowly peeled back Alejandro's backstory. They didn't give it to you all at once. And essentially, he is an assassin for hire. He will take any job, essentially, especially the ones that led to the death of his family. Yep. I guess that was one of them. And the dark humor of that scene after he kills his family, he obviously the guy is in great shock, and he's about to die. But I think there's a scene where it's just like, it would have been a cheesy piece of dialogue, but I think it would have been kind of cool for him to say, it wasn't in front of your family. They're not going to see it. So.
So this is it. Another star rating, another movie come to an end. I'll kick us off short and sweet. Sicario gets a 9 for me. Zach?
I'm going to go one step higher, 10. I think I really do think this is a perfect movie. I'm never bored through it. It's just so intense, great performances. It's great. It's just great filmmaking. Like I said, cinematography, screenplay, and score. That does a lot. That can do a lot for a movie, and this definitely has it. And I don't know if it's one of the top 10 films of the last decade, but it's definitely a top 10 of 2015. So, what about you, Ed?
I'd have to give it a 9 as well. It hits on a lot of different levels. It has a lot of different, scopes to it, for that matter. Family wise, it's got the humane wise. It's got the cold hearted assassin scope as well. It's kind of a layered story, for that matter. 3 stories in one, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. 'Cause, I mean, it's like after she gets blown up, with Kate, taking the shower, and basically rinsing off blood. And at first you're like, is that her blood? Is that blood from,
Somebody
her
else.
head
Yeah.
or forehead or something like that? And you find out it's
Yeah.
blood from her head. And it's just like, well, you're in it now. kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of like in a weird way, it's almost like a rebirth for that character, because she is just so driven to get, these cartel members and all this and that. And there's a great scene where he's actually where she's questioning her superior and saying, what they're doing is illegal. You know this, right? But then her commander or her senior officer is like, yeah, but how much what they do compared to what you do on the streets? Do you really think that what you get done on the streets is anything compared to what they can do? And she even admits it. No, it isn't. What'd you guys think of and this has been a long time ago, but what'd you guys think about Day of Soldado? I remember really liking that movie. I haven't seen it since the theater, but I remember it being a worthy sequel from what I remember about it.
I thought it was real good, honestly. A lot of intense action in it, so yeah.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but there is a third Sicario film in the works as of February of last year. It's still in development, and it's named Sicario. It's called Sicario Capos, Capos. It doesn't have a release date or anything, so we'll definitely see what happens with that.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys, and next week it is our annual Memorial Day episode. Next week we're talking All Quiet on the Western Front. It is our 5th annual Memorial Day episode. I don't know who's joining me, and I don't know what it's going to drop next Monday for sure. I know me and Ed will be there for sure. But next week, guys, should be a fun episode. Unless there's anything else you guys need to add, I think that puts a nail in the coffin on Sicario, and we'll see you next week. So
later.
Next week, guys, brand new episode, Memorial Day 2023, right here on the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.